Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Virginia SBDC's webinar series, Google and Beyond, Marketing and Managing on the Web. This series is designed to take a look at tools and techniques to help small businesses take their business to the next level. Today's webinar is Advertising on Google, or Google AdWords. All of our Google and Beyond webinars are presented by Ray Sidney Smith, web and mobile strategist, author of So Low Mo Success, Social Media, Local, and Web Small Business Marketing Strategy Explained, and president of W3 Consulting, a digital business strategy and training firm. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type those into the question window, and Ray will do his best to answer them. Without further ado, here's Ray Sidney Smith.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you to the Virginia SBDC Network for having me here on the Beyond Google Marketing and Managing on the Web series. So as Tracy talked about, we're going to be covering advertising on Google using Google AdWords today, and I'm going to try and bring us through sort of the story of a business trying to advertise, and we'll hopefully get our way through as much material as possible so that you guys can really get started in the AdWords world. So a couple of housekeeping items. As Tracy talked about before, you're capable of asking questions here in the webinar. Feel free to ask questions. That's what I'm here for. And AdWords is a big tool and a big product, and so if it's something that is not within the purview of our discussion today, feel free to ask the question anyway, and we can always take that offline afterward, and I can answer that in a more fully developed way that I couldn't do here in the webinar. So ask questions now. That's what we're here for. Two is if you have questions afterward that are related to this, feel free to go ahead and send that message on Twitter at W3 Consulting, hashtag it Beyond Google, and that's usually the quickest, fastest way to reach me to get those sort of quick questions answered. And then finally, go ahead and follow at Virginia SBDC, which is the Virginia Small Business Development Center Network's Twitter handle, and you'll get all of the news about new webinars and other programs that the Virginia SBDC and the regional SBDCs around the state have and are offering. So with that out of the way, we're going to really talk about today Google AdWords. We want to cover the basics, where I'll be talking a little bit about each of the aspects of what's going to set you up for AdWords success. We're going to then go into the AdWords interface, and I'm going to show you around the product so you can sort of see where things are. We'll also go ahead and talk a little bit about the setup process for campaigns, ad groups, and ads. I won't take into the nitty-gritty of too much of that, but I want to show you around what each of those layers looks like within the Google AdWords interface, and then I'll be talking about best practices for success. So let's jump right into it. We have a lot to cover. Let's talk about the Google AdWords basics. So the basics really starts off with AdWords is a hierarchical system, and Google AdWords itself, if you don't already know, is an advertising platform that Google has provided, and it's pretty basic. You go ahead and you put an ad out on the internet, and the internet shows up on a couple of different places. Google's search engine results page, as it's called, the SERP. When you do a search on the internet, it shows up as that first area at the top or to the right of the organic search results. Then someone clicks on that link or does whatever you want, sees it, whatever that might be, and you gain business from the exposure of the advertising, right? So that's pretty much the premise behind Google AdWords. And I don't really, if anyone has a question about what Google AdWords is specifically, I presume you know that that's why you're here. But if you have a specific question about that, feel free to ask it in the question bar. But I'm sort of presuming people know what AdWords is, and so we're going to go right into sort of the hierarchy, because I want to cover a little bit more of the in-depth stuff that we don't normally cover in some of these. There is a prior webinar that we've done on this. So if you really need to know what the nitty-gritty sort of basics of what AdWords is, go back to that prior webinar that's archived on the Virginia SBDC website, and you can see that. But anyway, so let's start with AdWords hierarchy. So Google AdWords is designed in a series of hierarchies. The first one is the account level, okay? And this is where you actually have the account that you have created. So that account is a Google account, and it has various limitations, and I'm going to talk about those limitations in a couple of slides. And so you have a singular account, okay? And then you go down one layer, and you have campaigns, okay? The campaigns are ways in which you can then categorize ads at a higher level. Okay, so the account are all your ads. Campaigns is one slice of the ads. Think of them as file folders. Then you have ad groups. Okay, think of those as pages within a file, sort of sheets of paper within the file folders. And then you have the ads themselves, the actual printing on the individual pages within that particular ad, okay, or that ad group. All right, so we have those 4 layers, and that's really the hierarchy of the AdWords system, and that's how we start to think about how to break up AdWords and organize it in a way that sets you up for success. Okay, so we really want to think about these 4 different layers. So campaigns are a broad slice of things. Think about campaigns in a way of being able to add different kinds of ad groups, and I'll explain what ad groups are in a moment, so that you can basically group different things together with the highest layer of granularity. Okay, so that can be as high as you have an event coming up, and you want to be able to place all of your different ad groups and ads within those ad groups underneath the campaign for this upcoming event. Or you have this particular theme or something else that you're trying to run, you have a particular product line. You can organize those at the campaign level as well as at the ad group, but you would start at the campaign level to really figure out what that highest level thing is that you're focusing on within your Google AdWords account. Okay. Next is the ad groups. The ad groups are ways in which you can sort of subcategorize a campaign, right? So you need to be able to sort of fit those particular pages of ads together. And so you might have several different ads about a particular product in a particular geographic location and so on and so forth, and I'll talk about that momentarily as well. And you want to be able to put those together. The ads are just the individual ads themselves, and those are the ones that actually show and display on either the Google Search Network or the display property partners, that is the Google Search Partners websites. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're paying attention to all these 4 layers as well. So some of the limitations that Google AdWords puts on your account. You have as many users as you want for an account. So while you might have an account for your business, you have ABC Business, and that has an account. Well, you can then add as many users as you want, other Google accounts, to be able to access your account. And I'll show you that once we get into the interface. If you want to be able to add as many users as you want to be able to access maybe just administering a particular campaign or administering the billing aspects of the account or other kinds of things that you might just want to see them handle the reporting so that they can see what's happening in that account but not actually administer the account or maintain that particular account. Okay, so go ahead and understand that you can have as many users as you want, for the account to operate it. You can have 10,000 campaigns per account. Okay, so you can have 10,000 different campaigns. Those can, of course, run 20,000 ad groups in any specific campaign. Okay, so do the math there. That's a lot of ad groups in the 10,000 campaigns that you can have. So most people are not really going to have a problem with the cap on 10,000 campaigns and 20,000 ad groups. The typical small business has 2 campaigns. They run 9 ad groups and 18 text ads. So you're not really worried about these particular limits, but I'm telling you them because some people might decide to really get granular and want to know this information. You can have 300 display ads per ad group, and that means that within each ad group, you're capped at 300. So you can have 300 in each of those 20,000 ad groups. Okay. You can also organize your AdWords account in a number of different ways. Okay, and this is where you get to decide the campaign level versus the ad group level. You start to think about where these things fall in line with things. The first way in which you can organize your AdWords account is by the search aspect of it. So are you using a search, just Google search itself? That is, it's only going to show up on Google search. Potentially it's going to show up on Google search partner websites. Well, you can decide which networks that's going to show up on and use that as the campaign level. You can choose to just only display ads. and choose that's going to, be the hierarchy of your campaigns. You can choose PLA if you're a product-based business, the e-commerce site, or you plan on having one. You can do PLAs, which are product listing ads. Well, product listing ads are pulled from Google Shopping, and that's a whole other conversation for another day, but there's the Google product listing ads pulling from Google Shopping, and you'll be able to actually use the Google AdWords interface to be able to, on a campaign level and on an ad group level, break up that account. Next, you have mobile. So if you're doing mobile preferred ads, or click-to-call ad extensions, as we'll talk about in a little while, you'll be able to break up the account based on those as well. Next up is location-based. Most of small business is geographically situate, and we should pay attention to where our business is coming from. You don't want to be wasting ad spend. That is the budget you set aside to be able to advertise. You don't want to waste ad spend on marketing your product to somebody in 3 states away from you that you can't provide services to. If you're an attorney who's licensed in a particular state or states, you know that you can't and shouldn't advertise to people outside of your state, so you would only be advertising the geographic location. Same thing with people who are real estate agents who are covering a specific geographic location. You can get very granular down to the zip code, and you can get very broad out to the state, county, region, and then, of course, beyond that, states and other multiple state regions, and the country, and then the world, countries, and that kind of thing. So you can choose to organize your AdWords account by, I'm covering only people in the States, I'm covering only people in Massachusetts, I'm only covering people in a particular county in Central Virginia, I'm only covering these 3 zip codes for this particular campaign. Okay, so think about how you're going to break up your account so that it makes no sense for you. Next up is using brands, products, or services as a way to organize your AdWords account. And I'm giving you all of these because you don't really have there's no best practice as it relates to this. It's just how it's best to organize it in your own mind and in your own business. So I'm giving you all of these options so that you can start to create some structure, but these are the ways in which you would do it. I mean, these are the ways in which you can do it. Next up is the brands, products, or services. Brands, products, or services is using that as the hierarchy. So if I have a particular, a particular product that I sell that it has a particular brand, you know that people are going to be focused on looking for that brand in terms of keyword relevance. So I would want to set that as the brand. And if I have multiple brands, then I would set up different campaigns for those multiple brands and then have ad groups broken up underneath that to be able to structure the account that way. So think about that. Products or services, if you have several products, you might decide that you may have different brands but different products underneath that. So you set products as the higher, hierarchy and campaigns, and then all the various brands of those products underneath them. Your choice. Next up, web properties. Google actually limits you regarding web properties, so you can actually only have that one web property per campaign, I believe it is. So, you have to make sure that you structure it appropriately if you're trying to actually advertise against multiple web properties. So make sure that you are paying attention to it. If you really do have multiple websites, I think the option is to really just create multiple AdWords accounts. So that's one of those things where if you're going to have really separate websites selling separate things, you should really have separate accounts. So I think that's really the exception there. If you have multiple web properties, separate AdWords accounts, and use it accordingly. And finally, themes, seasons, or events. As I gave the example at the beginning of really sort of having an event and deciding to use that campaign as the highest level event, you would create a campaign designed around that event because it has a start and an end date. You're going to start marketing for that event, and then you're going to end advertising for that event at some point, right at the time the event starts or right after the event ends, that kind of thing. And so you have these sort of time-based criteria that's around it. The same thing with themes and seasons. When's the beginning and ending of this particular theme or season or event, and that's going to be the surrounding of sort of time or theme-specific barriers to organizing it. Now, you might decide that you have a brand or a product or service, and then you have an event or a theme underneath that. You see, so you can really be malleable with regard to how you actually set it up. But it's, what are going to be the highest level, account level settings that are going to push, so on the account level you can say, I only want to ever advertise in the United States. I don't want to advertise outside of it, or I only want to advertise in North America, or I only want to advertise in Europe, or whatever. Once you've decided that on the account level, then you can go down the next level to the campaigns and decide how many campaigns you need, and then how many ad groups and how many ads. Okay, so these are the ways in which you can organize the account. Just start to think about how you do that, and it sometimes grows organically, but it's good to have some sense of how you're going to organize it, because once you have a lot of ads and a lot of ad groups, then it becomes a little bit cumbersome to manage it all. And as I'll talk about soon, you're going to have actually a lot of campaigns running at any given time. That is, a lot of ads running at any given time inside of potentially many ad groups and potentially inside of many campaigns. So you want to be able to really structure it so that you can pay attention to what's going on and get the best results out of your ad spend. Okay, next up, another point about organization, which is language. It's really important that we are speaking with your buyer's words, okay? You really need to speak with your buyer's words. That is, one, if you are catering to people with multiple language backgrounds, make sure that your ads are designed around that. You might actually have a campaign that says English speaking, and so you categorize it search English, Virginia, Winchester. You might choose to, have search SP for Spanish or ES for Spanish, Virginia, Fairfax County. And so what that does is it allows you to be able to organize the account based on language as well, because that is, a big factor of being able to affect a particular market. So that's one side of it, is sort of the hierarchy from the prior slide. The second part is that you really need to speak with your buyer's words, in the sense that you need to use the words that your buyers are using. For example, if you are in the waste management world and you do garbage pickup, well, if you start using the word waste management and you're in a consumer-facing business, that's going to really be a waste of your time, no pun intended, because what you should really be using as the keywords are things that surround what people would type into Google. They type in garbage pickup, or they type in garbage services, or something like that, right? So pay attention to the words that your buyers are going to type. Remember that you are in a reactive environment when you are using Google AdWords. You are reacting to what people are searching, and so you really need to pay attention to the language that you're using that isn't jargon, okay, technical terms and those kinds of things. Now, flip side that if your buyer are B2B or are very sophisticated, a very sophisticated audience, that they are prone to using that kind of language, then absolutely you have to use that language, okay? So if you're marketing to executive MBAs to do transition coaching or something like that, these are people who know particular industry terms and are looking for kinds of specific services with that industry terminology and jargon. Definitely use that in your keyword strategy, okay? So pay attention to that. Use language as a structural tone, form or tool, and also use language as a means for making sure that you're catching yourself when you're dealing with the responsiveness and the reactiveness to your keyword strategy. Okay, they sort of are dual points there that I think are really important. Okay, next up is MaRC, like mark in marketing or mark your calendar. I like to sort of keep that acronym in mind when I'm talking about AdWords Keyword Strategy. And so let's talk about sort of these four components of AdWords Keyword Strategy, which is really your market, relevance, competition, and cost. Okay, and let's talk about each of these in sort of little pockets to start off with. The first one is your market. Okay, the market size that we really talk about is not necessarily the number of people that are purchasing, but actually search volume. Okay, so search volume relates to frequency of searches, and we want to see how many times something is searched on it. All right, so as you start to develop your keyword strategy in Google AdWords, you really need to start thinking about how much people are searching. So this takes us to a sort of an aside about search volume and the practicalities of it all. We don't want search terms that are really too broad, because then we're wasting money on getting lots of irrelevant traffic to our websites. But we don't want search terms too specific, because if someone only does one search every 6 months, a year, every 18 months, well, that's not enough traffic to be able to support your business. So we want to really find a sweet spot in between that actually drives enough traffic to your website that converts, so that you're capable of getting the return on investment, literally the ROI that you would get for the money that you're spending, so that you're capable of justifying its cost, okay? So market size is really the search volume. So think about how much traffic you would need to your website to convert. That is, someone does what you want them to do, sign up for an email list, make a purchase on your website, make a contact with your company in order to hire you or buy your product. How many of those searches do you need to turn into your goal in order for you to be able to be successful in your campaign? Next up is relevance. Relevance, of course, is dealing with your ability to understand your consumer. And as anyone who's probably heard me talk about Google in the past, really this is about intent. We want to get ahead of your customers, so that we want to ask our customers what's going on in their world, okay, on a regular basis. Because if we can understand their intent behind the search, then it becomes less reactionary, and now we're being more active and even proactive in being able to put content on our websites and ad copy that is relevant to our audience, okay? So we want our keywords to be relevant, because they're things that people are actually wanting to search that will relate to our product, and that will make them want to buy our product or hire us for our services, okay? So relevance is really important. And finally, competition and cost. It's really important to understand your competition. Most of your competition is unsavvy as it relates to AdWords. You're probably in the beginning stages of your AdWords. Maybe some of you are beyond that and have been actively using it. And I'm happy to answer more questions about those kinds of questions as well, sort of topics as well. But the point is that you have competition out there. The second layer of competition is that AdWords is an auction. So your competition out there is not just your competition because they're also advertising on Google AdWords. They are directly correlating to your ad prices. I mean, so if a particular item is more popular or less popular, then you will pay more or less per ad, okay? So we really need to pay attention to how many times a popular term is being searched on, or whether a term is popular, and that's going to, of course, demand higher pricing. So really pay attention to your competition. And, of course, cost. We always have to take cost into account. Sometimes the best keyword strategy is crippled by a limited budget, and that's just a limitation we need to take up front. Okay, so really think about how much money can you spend here. And I sort of think about this in the stock market. How much money can you put into the stock market that you'd be comfortable losing? And that's the amount of money that you would put into AdWords. And sort of the flip side is how much money are you willing to put into Google AdWords that's going to benefit you? Okay, that's going to provide you that tenfold on your investment. Okay, so you want to put in $1 and get back 10, and potentially get back 100, and potentially get back 1,000. Well, how do you do that in terms of how much money am I comfortable with putting into the budget? All right, and figuring that all out. Okay, so MaRCC is really the idea of taking together all of those four principles and using them as a means for being able to develop a good keyword strategy. All right, so let's get into the different types of keyword matches to really understand how you take the keyword concepts and start to limit them within the AdWords interface. Okay, so keyword matches are ways in which we can create greater relevance and limit, in a way, what people are searching, not what people are searching, but what ads are being shown for the searches being done. Okay, so when someone does a search, if someone does a search for socks and I sell shoes, I don't want to be probably seen in the same search. So I want to be seen in very relevant searches that show my ad for the products that people are looking to buy. Okay? So there's some ways in which you can do that. The first way is what's called a broad match type. And a broad keyword match type is where you actually put a plus sign in front of a key phrase or keyword, and that's like putting athletic shoes. So I put plus sign athletic shoes into Google AdWords, and it knows that as a quote-unquote broad keyword match type. And the sort of piece behind that, as I talked about earlier, is that you have sort of a wide reach if you use a too broad a term. You know, that's great that you have a wide reach. Is that part of your keyword strategy, though? Okay, do you want to be known as just a shoe salesman, okay, or a shoe store or a shoe boutique, or do you want to be known for carrying Nike, you know, whatever the latest model of Nikes are? Okay, do you want to be known for that specific thing? Well, then athletic shoes as a broad match type is not for you, because you're going to bring potentially irrelevant traffic to your website, and that's going to waste ad spend. Okay. But if you're trying to get known for being someone who's an expert in monoblonics, well, then you might actually use the broad key phrase, the broad match type for monoblonics. So you would put plus sign monoblonics. And now you would get lots of traffic and lots of exposure to your website as an expert about this particular shoe brand. Okay? So pay attention to how you're managing with the broad keyword match types to bring in the right traffic for you. And I'll talk in the fourth piece of the keyword match types, the fourth type of keyword match types, about how to limit some of that chase. Okay, so phrase keyword match types. So phrase match types are the ability for you to quote words so that the words show up as that key phrase in there. So in broad match type, I might have athletic shoes as the broad match type as the key phrase there, and you might get discount athletic shoe types. You might discount athletic shoes. You might get buy athletic shoes now, other kinds of keywords that would show up for that kind of thing. With the so you could also get words inside of athletic shoes. So you might get athletic running shoes, or athletic casual shoes, or athletic dress shoes inside of that broad keyword match type, because it's gonna try and give you the broadest reach, the most exposure for the keywords that you're putting in under the first type. Under the second type, under phrase, what the quotes do is it says it'll only show athletic shoes together, and it won't put anything in between. You might have words in front, like I said, buy, discount, whatever that might, buy, discount, athletic shoes, now, those kinds of things. It'll put words before and after the key phrase that are in quotes, but it won't actually break the quotes in between. Okay, so that's sort of the difference between those two. Finally is exact. Exact, or third to finally, is exact. Exact is where you put in square brackets a particular phrase, and there are no words before or after the keyword or key phrase you put in there. So that basically says if I type in shoe, then it's only when someone types in shoe into Google will you display my ad. Okay? Now there's a caveat to this. Google has decided as of September of this year to turn on by default these sort of misspellings. So they're going to start to add in sort of correlating relevant keywords to your campaigns, whether or not you like it. So once upon a time, you could say, I only want people who typed in shoe. Well, even if you do an exact search here with the keyword shoe, and you negated everything else by doing that, by putting the brackets in, you would still get people who typed in shoes, and people who might type in moccasins, and people who might type in other, or shoes misspelled as SH space OES, or shoe misspelled as, you know, eschew, the word ESCHEW. So it depends on your perspective on it. It does certainly broaden your reach ever so slightly, but remember that you are going to use the fourth type very shortly to sort of correct some of these issues that Google has now done by default, adding in these sort of relevant and potentially irrelevant correlating results. Okay, so just be aware of that. Finally, we have negative keywords. Keywords that are negative show up with a dash before the keyword or the phrase, and that way you're basically saying to Google, different from the other three where you're telling Google what you want to see, now you're telling Google what you don't want to see. As an, so if someone does a search for this particular word or key phrase, I don't want to show my ad for this particular thing. So you can do this on the ad group level and the campaign level and the account level. Okay, so you can add these negative keywords across each of those. It just depends on how much you don't want that keyword to be seen in your overarching, advertising campaign. Advertising strategy. Okay, so think about it on all of those levels. So you might have a list of keywords. If you sell particular products that don't make sense. So, for example, if you're Volkswagen and you sell the Volkswagen Beetle, well, you might want to remove the scientific names. You might want to add as a negative keyword the scientific names for the beetle. So there's someone's typing for the the insect beetle, you would eliminate those, because if someone typed in beetle, Google's going to automatically look for two types of things: the Volkswagen Beetle or a ladybug or something like that. So you can type in as a negative keyword ladybug, so that anyone who types in ladybug would not see your ad. Okay, so taking number 3 into account, which is exact keyword match types, you can now negate. And if you want exact things on the ad group level, you're really going to have to pay attention to adding negative keywords. Negative keywords are amazing, though, because what it does is it allows you to be able to get rid of tons of potential ad spend waste. Okay, so most small businesses don't use negative AdWords and negative keywords within the system. You should really be using the negative keywords so that you can reduce and kill all these things that are eating up your ad spend. So as you start out, you start looking at the ads, at the searches that people are doing, and then seeing whether or not those searches have any relevance to your website and to your conversion. And then you say to yourself, oh, well, this has nothing to do with this. Let me add that negative keyword so that doesn't happen again. Okay, so it's constantly monitoring to be adding negative keywords to limit people from coming in and wasting your money. That's what they're doing. Okay, so that's keyword match types, and that brings me to a little word from our sponsors, getting a little word about quality score. Quality score is a way in which Google actually prices your ads. Okay, so a quality score is calculated by taking your click-throughs. That is when someone sees your ad and clicks on a link, that's a click-through, right? To go to your website. They take that and they divide that by the number of impressions, the number of people who have seen your ad. So think of an impression as a TV advertisement or a billboard on the side of the road. Okay, when you drive by it, that's an impression. When you watch a TV ad, that's an impression. You're not capable of doing anything to that ad or whatnot specifically. You can react to it, which is you can go to their website, you can call the phone number, or do whatever they ask you to do on the site. That would be the click-through in essence. But since we're on the web, click-through is the actual physical process of clicking through. Okay, so click-throughs over impressions equals your quality score. Now, your quality score is something that most people don't actually even know exists, but what that does is that it improves your ad relevancy, and it also improves your cost budgeting, because what it does is the higher your quality score, the lower the cost that Google actually charges you for every ad that's displayed. Okay? The lower your quality score, the more you pay. Okay? So if you have a quality score of 1 to 5, you can pay up to 400% more than someone who has a quality score of 10, so the 10-point scale. Your cost per click could be decreased by 50% at a 10, right? And your cost per action, so you have the cost per click, cost per impression, cost per action principles. So I'll explain those as well. So cost per click is the literal, I pay 25 cents for every time someone clicks on my ad. I only pay when you click on my ad. Cost per impression is the number of thousands of times someone sees my ad. Okay, again, 1,000 cars drives by my billboard on the side of the road. That's 1 CPM. Okay, it's 1,000 people driving by, and I pay for that 1,000 people driving by. The next one is cost per action, which is a conversion. Someone's actually doing something. They get to a place. They download my brochure. They make a phone call that converts into a sale. They do something that actually brings me what I want. Okay, it's the highest standard in terms of advertising online right now because we get actual return on investment for each one of those things we pay. It's also the most expensive because it's a much higher risk for the advertiser to get you to that end. Okay, so we really need to think about quality score here, folks. It's important for us to really think, how is our quality score impacting? Now, what improves our quality score? Better ad copy. So when we're writing text ads, we really need to write them in line with Google AdWords' recommendations and requirements. If we're doing images, we're making sure that those images are quality images that are converting well, and that we're making sure that we're producing great landing pages and copy on the business website side. Okay, so we're forgetting that, yeah, we can create great ads, but if they're coming to places that are low quality, like your homepage, so here goes a rule: you should never take someone to your homepage from an ad unless your homepage has a buy now button right in the center of it. Okay, your ads should be taking people to specific pages on your websites, and I'm probably getting ahead of myself here in the slides, but you should never do that because it's just going to reduce your quality score over time because your click-through rates are going to produce low conversions. And when you have low conversions, then Google's going to look at that negatively. Okay, so look at your quality score and start to think about how you're producing really great ads that convert, because Google's looking at all of those things in the spectrum, and we really need to pay attention to those things as we move along. Okay, so we've talked about market volume, the market size, the volume of searches and frequency. We talked about relevance, and we talked about competition and cost, and talked about some of the pieces that are sort of, intertwined with the overall basics of a good keyword AdWords strategy. I want to take us all into the actual AdWords interface now so that we can sort of see the system, get comfortable with what it looks like, and sort of make our way around that. At this point, if you have any questions while I am transitioning over to the other interface, you can ask me questions. So let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer those as I'm jumping over to the campaign side. Okay, so I am in a test account that I created this morning, and I'm going to jump over here. When you first get into Google AdWords, you would be signing up for an account, and here you can see that it needs me to verify an email address, so ignore that big red bar across the top because it's saying that my email address hasn't been verified. But you come to this home page. This home page is, let me back up again. You need a Google account, okay, in order to be able to have AdWords. And the Google account itself, which is what I talked about at the first part about the Google hierarchy. The Google hierarchy is you have an account. Now that Google account could be your business email address, and that's your identifier that you own this particular account, okay? That identifier will be attached to billing information so that they can charge you for your advertising. Then below that you can have users, which are also Google accounts, but they are underneath your AdWords account, okay? So here you can see that I just created, I have a dummy Gmail address. Do not email that account, please. I will not get the email. So I just use the Gmail account, but you don't need to use your business email address and use that as the Google account. So when you come to Google AdWords for the first time, if you don't have a Google account, they will have you create that Google account, and then that will be the unique ID that will take you into the AdWords interface. When you do that, you'll come to this home page once you've gone through the little setup process. I'm not going to get into all of that, but it's a really quick process. You just choose your basics, and you're good to go. And then you're taken here, which is the home page. The home page, once you get the billing set up and verify your email and that thing goes away, you don't have that red bar anymore. But the red bar is important. When the red bar is showing, there's something probably fundamentally wrong with your AdWords account, and you should do whatever it says to fix it to make sure the red bar goes away. All right. Also, in the top right-hand corner, you're going to see this little notifications icon, and you'll see when there are other notifications that you should pay attention to. So those are things that you should read. Okay. So if you see a red exclamation point over the notification icon sign up here in the top right-hand corner, it's something that you should probably pay attention to, and then of course you should go ahead and deal with any of the big red bar items. So the home page. The home page here is sort of a quick overview of the performance of your overall, of all your campaigns that are happening here on Google AdWords. I tend to skip this almost immediately. Sometimes it's useful information, sometimes it's not. Even in the ability to drill down to separate campaigns, this is really just a quick overview of what's going on, really not all that helpful. What you're really going to do is spend most of your time and most of your days on the Campaigns tab. Okay, so the Campaigns tab is the one right to the Home tab. So when you click on Campaigns, you're going to see this screen. And what this is going to do is it's going to have two different sort of areas. We have the area on the left-hand side, which is sort of a list of different kinds of online campaigns that you have running, and it filters your campaigns to just see those particular ones. So you can see I created a dummy campaign here, and you can see that there's one ad running in this campaign, and the right-hand side shows the specifics of what you're looking at from the left-hand side. Okay. Now, if you need more space, you can click the chevron that's right next to all campaigns, and it will go ahead and push that all campaigns, that sidebar on the left-hand side, off the screen so that you can have a little bit more real estate and work on just that specific campaign that you're working within. Okay? Now, if you don't have any campaigns running yet, you are going to have the option right here in the center. You'll see there's a red button. I'm just circling it with my cursor here and with my mouse. And you can go ahead and drop down an arrow on that, and you're going to get 4 different options, broad options, and then you're going to get an option for online video. I'm not going to get into online video today. I'm just going to talk about the search network display here. But you can see that there are 4 different options. You're going to have to really play with many of these. If you are selling a product, and I know there are probably some people here that I've talked to in the past few weeks who are going to be on here, and if you're in a product, you're actually going to go down to the shopping option, which is the PLAs, okay? So that's where on the beginning side where we talked about sort of setting up and organizing your AdWords account, you're going to set it up based on the PLAs. You're going to set it up based on the various broad products that you're selling. Those specific campaigns are going to be your highest level organizer, and then underneath that, you're going to be able to set up these different kinds of shopping campaigns based on geolocating your clients and making sure that you know your specific keywords and negative keywords associated with them. Okay, so that's where you're going to go when you go in there. We're just going to go into the search network only once we get there, but this is where you would create a new campaign. Okay, and we'll get there shortly. All right, so you have all these various tabs and that kind of thing. We'll just go over some of them so you can see here. So we have campaigns as a tab for any specific campaign that you're clicked in. This one I'm looking at all campaigns, but if I was in a specific one, this same tabs would apply. And so I would have the campaigns that are running from this particular one. Inside here, I can filter on all kinds of different options. I can segment and I can filter based on time and network and click type. I can filter based on other kinds of labels that I've custom created, as well as columns within the system, these particular columns that are in here. If you have any question about any of these that I would really recommend that you go in and just all of them have question mark icons next to ones that might be confusing to you, and just hover over it, and you can see here it pops up this little bubble and explains exactly what it is. I mean, it explains it in very plain English. You should understand it out the gate, okay? So each of these sub-tabs has different parts of it. So campaigns go to subgroups, all right? In this particular set of campaigns, let me click on a specific campaign. So here in this particular campaign, since I'm not looking at all campaigns, I'm looking at one specific one now, you can see that the campaigns went away, and now I'm in ad groups. The ad groups has its own settings, so you can change the campaign settings associated with that particular ad group, and then you go down to the specific ads, okay? And then you can see each of the various ads that are in here. So on the campaign level, you can create campaigns, then we can create ad groups, then we can create ads, right? And so inside of this particular campaign, I can create ad groups. Again, red button in the center of the ad groups tab, and I can go ahead and create that ad group. I'm not going to now, but you can do that. Then if I'm on the ads tab, now I can create an ad, which then I can add to an ad group. Okay, so I can go ahead and create an ad in the ad group, and you can see here I have an ad for breakfast. Want a great breakfast, and you can click on the little cereal ad. Then we have one more sub-tab over, which is the keywords tab, where we can add various keywords to that particular campaign. And so we have all the keywords that we might have in there. This would include all the types, the match types that we talked about: broad, phrase, exact, and negative keywords. Okay, so this is where we're going to add all those items. Then we have something called ad extensions. Google has the ability for you to have various kinds of ad extensions. The most important one is that are the ones designed around mobile. So click to call and the mobile preferred ad extensions. You want to really pay attention to all of those kinds of mobile ad extensions that are available within it. But click to call is really the most important one you want to really pay attention to. There are other ones that might be pertinent to your business and that kind of thing. Dimensions is really just a way for you to be able to look at the data from different views. Okay, so think about looking at them from different perspectives. This gives you sort of a visual way of looking at the AdWords campaigns. So dimensions is a cool way to sort of look at things from different charting perspectives. And all of these can usually be downloaded in different reports. So you can download them in different formats. So it gives you Excel, it gives you XML, PDF, and Excel in different formats and that kind of thing. So you can pull it out and actually import it into other data crunching software. If you have BI software, you can go ahead and import it into there and have it do some crunching. Something that I didn't cover before, again, we've gone over some of the basics of the system before, so I really wanted to talk a little bit more about strategy here, but I want to show the interface really quickly. Remember that under the gear icon, you have your little gear icon, you drop down, you have billing and account settings, okay? So under billing and account settings, you're capable of changing, obviously, your billing information and seeing your reports on billing. And then under account settings, you have all of the places where you're going to be able to put in your address and account access and all of those things. If you have linked accounts, all of those particular things. You can also change preferences in terms of notifications and who's going to be notified by email about what things and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's just quickly before I run out of time, because I want to jump back to the slides shortly. We have the ability to go ahead and create a campaign, create an ad group, and then create an ad based on that. All right. It should take you less than 10 minutes to be able to go ahead and create one of these. So I'm not going to do it one by one with you here. I'm just going to walk you through it. But you just get to the main page for the campaigns. You click on the red button to create a campaign. You choose one of your campaign types, and then you're going to give it a name. Again, when we talked about hierarchy, we're going to name the campaigns from the level of the hierarchy. Are these search network only ads that are in English in Virginia in Fairfax County? Well, that's going to be the name of your campaign. Okay, is it some other kind of categorization that you've created by your hierarchy? Well, name the campaign that, so that when you're looking at all the various ways that all the various campaigns that you set up, you're capable of going ahead and reading the names in a way that you can understand it. All right. Each of the search networks here, I've chosen search network only, which means Google Search Network and Partners. It's going to give me different options based on each of the ones. So if I click on Search Network and then if I click on Display Network, well, Display Network is going to give me a different set of options than the others. All right. So you're going to just work your way through the various items and then go through. Is this going to be only United States and Canada in terms of location? You may have that set at the account level, but you can also further specify it here in the campaign level, and then you keep going on. The ad group is very similar to that, so you're going to create the ad group based on that, and then the ad itself is where you're going to actually create the ads that'll be showing on Google or the Google search partner properties. Okay, so we go ahead and we create these various levels. It's all a very simple interface. So what you really need to do is just remember that every option that's here, there's this question mark, hover over the question mark, and have it explained to you. Pay attention to remarketing in the system. Remarketing should have its own ad group at the very least. So always put remarketing in its own ad groups if you do any remarketing. But remarketing basically says, if I search for this, then you're going to show me ads targeted to this when I visited your website. So if I would visit your website, I do a search, I visit your website, and now if I visit some other website, you're going to show me more ads about you, even though I left your website. So it's a way to follow your customer and really tailor that remarketing experience. But make sure that you really structure those remarketing campaigns under their own ad groups, if not under their own campaigns. They're really things that are very specific. Okay, and so I'm not going to show ads specifically because that's not really something I can do today. And so let's jump on out to the presentation and let's. Okay, so I want to talk about some of the AdWords sort of success practices really quickly in the time that we have left today. So first and foremost, and like I said, I breezed through the AdWords interface because there's a whole, even though it's a little bit dated, it's pretty much the same thing. I've gone over all of that in a prior AdWords webinar. So go back to that webinar, the archive, and you can see that particular interface pretty in depth. I mean, I walked through each piece by piece. Even though it's an older interface, it's pretty much the same parts of it. So go back to that webinar. But anyway, so the AdWords success practices. One is pay attention to your account. It's your money. According to data from a study that WordStream.com did, less than 1% of small business owners who advertise on AdWords made any changes to their AdWords account on a weekly basis. You should be at least touching base with your AdWords account on a weekly basis, okay? It's really important for you to, if you're going to be putting money into this, you really need to pay attention to this. So just make it a part of your regular marketing time and, check out your AdWords account. 2, tailor your ad copy and your landing pages to conversions, okay? So this really comes into the perspective that most businesses have not connected their Google AdWords accounts to your Google Analytics accounts. Connect the two of them. That's one of my sort of starting points for you that I'll talk about on a later slide. But you really need to make sure that you're tailoring your ad copy so that they're going to landing pages. Landing pages are the pages that when I do a search, I land on from the search, and that comes from either organic listings or search advertising listings. Okay, so if I click on one of your ads, what is the page on my website that I'm landing on? As I said before, it should probably not be your home page. What is that page internally in your website that's going to really convert me to want to do what you want me to do, okay? Conversions is a technical term within Google Analytics and Google AdWords. So look into what conversions are. But conversions are, what do you want me to do? What is success? And is success signing up for an email? Is success making a purchase? Is success making a phone call to you? A click-to-call through your mobile website? What are those things that you want me to do? That's the conversion. 3, make sure you're taking advantage of mobile. There's so much going on in mobile. Make sure that your website is mobile ready so that if you're either creating a mobile website or a responsive website that allows your website to be viewed on any size screen, make sure that that's happening. Make sure that the ads that you're setting up are set up so that you can do that. Once upon a time, you could limit ads on the campaign and ad group level to just a particular device. Now you have to set it as a setting within the ad groups or the ad level. So you want to make sure that you're going ahead and designing your ads so that they are that mobile preferred ads are being displayed correctly, and that click-to-call, I said the click-to-call ad extensions, that's where I see an ad, and if I click on the ad, it calls the business. Okay, so many businesses that would be great if you can just get someone to just click on a button on Google and it calls you. Okay, so they're ready to buy. They're ready to buy now. They just click the button and it launches their phone application on their smartphones, and it allows them to be able to call you. So really, really powerful stuff. And finally, Google AdWords tools are your friend. I didn't get a chance to go through all of the various tools within Google AdWords, but just plunk around in there. Under the Tools section, there is the Google AdWords Keyword Planner that I went over in the prior webinar, and all kinds of other different pieces that allow you to be able to learn about the keywords that are being used and the keywords that you might want to use of your AdWords keyword strategy and AdWords campaigns. Okay, where to start? Okay, I know this is a lot of stuff and a lot of things that are running around. I tried to give a lot of information in this session so that you can jump off of them and do your own research. Okay, so really use this as a launching point to jump in and look at these various areas that you have to pay attention to as it relates to Google AdWords. So one is create a Google AdWords account. All right, that's going to be the first step. Two is that if you don't know the interfaces well prior to watching this webinar, hop on over to the archive, like I said, and watch the archive that goes through the interface itself, because it goes over what AdWords is and the interface pretty in-depth. Next is plan to spend at least 6 months testing Google AdWords, okay? And that means having a weekly review of the system. You need to basically touch and base with the system.
Ray, can you hear me? It looks like Ray's audio has cut out. Let's give him a minute and see if he comes back on.
Okay, I think I'm back. Am I back, everybody?
You are back.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so the more you're touching base with your AdWords account, the more often you're going to learn new things and see new things within the system. AdWords is something that there are people who make their entire career on just understanding AdWords, okay? So you can't possibly become an expert, but every time you're exposed to a new piece of the puzzle, I am consistently being opened, my eyes are being opened to new pieces of AdWords. I mean, I learned about a whole new area of AdWords I didn't know even existed, because it's a little tiny button inside of another setting tab, and I had no idea it even existed the other day. I've been trained in this stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool that this exists. And so you're going to be exposed to all kinds of things just by poking around and playing with the tool itself. Don't be afraid of it. Just play around with the tool and learn about what's in there, and use the parts that are going to help you. Okay? Put together an AdWords ad spend budget. Really important for you to create a budget. Most businesses go out there and they just start spending money, and they forget that it actually is something. The average small business goes ahead and spends $1,200 a month on PPC, okay, which is pay-per-click advertising. 25% of that is wasted. Okay, that's because they didn't probably create a budget. All right, so if you say, okay, we're going to spend $800 a month or $900 a month on our AdWords budget, well, that's 25% under the average, and that's probably about the amount we need to spend. Okay, or if you're going to spend that $1,200, know that it's going to make money for you. All right. Next up is connect AdWords to analytics. It's really important that you go ahead and do that. There are instructions all over the web about that. So go ahead and connect AdWords to analytics. That is making sure that your conversions are being set up. So that's adding analytics to AdWords and AdWords to analytics. It's sort of a two-part process. Finally, create great content on your website and create great ad copy. The two of those is going to benefit your quality score, and at the end of the day, it's going to mean more money. Okay, so we want to make more money for small business, and that's really the end goal here with AdWords, is having the appropriate relevant content to the right amount of volume at the right amount that you're bidding for it. And with that, I'm happy to take questions. I know that we're sort of at the end of our time today, so I hope everyone learned a little bit more about AdWords than they came to it with. And I'll hand it over to Tracy.
Great, thanks, Ray. We don't have any questions in the question window as of right now, so I'm going to go ahead and close out the seminar. If anybody has questions, if you want to type them while I'm doing a little bit of last-minute housekeeping, Ray will down and answer those. Otherwise, we'll finish up. Thanks, everyone, for participating today. Today's webinar was recorded and will be posted on the Virginia SBDC website under live webinars and recordings. Tomorrow, you'll receive a follow-up email on the webinar with an evaluation link in it. Please help us to continue to improve by taking the time to complete the evaluation. If you'd like to complete the evaluation now, I did put a link in the chat window, and you can go ahead and do that. Other than that, see you for keeping up to date on your business using Google Alerts on our next webinar. And we do not have any questions typed, so we'll go ahead and finish up for the day. Thanks again, Ray, for your time. Quick question. How does the daily budget limit work? Once you've had all your clicks, you stop appearing?
That's correct. So you have a number of different ways in which you can set budgets. So those happen on either the campaign or the ad group level. And what you can do is you can say, I want to have Google set the maximum amount for any particular click, impression, or action, and therefore have it go ahead and show only for things that are in the auction being shown for that amount of money. That is, I'm the winner of the auction, therefore I'm being shown on that particular search engine results page, and in that particular display point, because you have first slot, second slot, third slot at the top of the page, and on the right-hand side you have the first, second, third, fourth, fifth slot, and so forth. And so it displays once you've reached that dollar limit, you'll have a daily limit across either the campaign or the ad group, and then it shuts down that particular ad group or that particular campaign, and then you can set an account level daily. So I only want to spend X amount across the entire account on this particular account, this particular amount, and therefore shuts down all the ads. So you can do it on that level, and you can also do it based on time. Okay, so you can say I want this campaign to only spend X amount of money over the course of time, and that way each of your daily bids is looking at that criteria.
Okay. One other question, do you need to do AdWords in addition to SEO?
That's a good question. So we know that when you don't have to do anything. So I'll start it off with, no one's forcing you to do this. But in as it relates to search engine optimization, and let's remove SEO as a term from our vernacular now. It's just creating great content. You're forced to create great content. Yes. Okay. In order to be successful in web marketing, advertising on top of that increases your organic content marketing. Okay. The way that it works is that if you are clicked on by a blog article or a service page that you've written or some kind of resource that you put on your website, if I see the ad associated with the organic content that's there in the search engine results page, I am more likely to click on it than not. So advertising, you may have a CPC campaign running and no one ever clicks on it. But if you do that and test that against not having the advertising for another blog post that has the same quality, you might see more people clicking on the one with the ad, even though they never click on the ad, they'll click on the organic content because the ad is there. So it can only benefit you by advertising organic search results. Okay, so that's sort of how it does. That's how it works when it comes to organic content. So we write great content, we put great content on our websites, the advertiser can supplement that content. The other side is that if you don't have great content on your website, your landing pages at least have to be great so that they convert, and then you can supplement the lacking of your website in terms of pages, page numbers or volume of content by using Google AdWords advertising.
Great. Thanks, Ray. We don't have any more questions, so thanks everyone for participating today.
Thank you.